The chamber held 400 species. 400 delegations arranged in concentric rings of floating platforms, each one humming with translation fields and diplomatic posturing. At the center of it all, in the smallest ring reserved for elder mediator races, stood Ambassador Lena Chen of Earth. She was not looking at the speaker. She was looking at her hands. The Kethvari delegate was mid-sentence, his mandibles clicking in the rhythm of someone who had rehearsed this moment for weeks. His voice boomed through the translation matrix, smooth and certain. And so the concordance recognizes that the border world-designated threshold falls within the historical migration corridor of the Kethvari expansion fleet. We request immediate transfer of administrative authority. This is not a demand. It is a correction. 400 species watched. Most expected what always happened. The humans would sigh. The humans would consult. The humans would find a compromise, absorb the loss, smile, and say the words that held the galaxy together for 80 years. We forgive. Lena Chen looked up. She looked at the Kethvari delegate. Then at the drone observer who had stolen human terraforming patents 11 years ago. Then at the Voss collective representative who had broken 3 treaties and paid no price. Then at the council chair, a soft-bodied Jalothi who was already nodding, already expecting compliance. Lena pressed her palm flat against the speaking console. The ledger, she said, is closed. The chamber went quiet. Not the polite silence of procedural pause. The silence of 400 species hearing a sound they had never heard from a human mouth. Refusal. She turned. Behind her, 11 human delegates stood in sequence. No signal was given. No glance was exchanged. They simply rose, gathered their data slates, and walked toward the exit. Footsteps on polished floor. Nothing else. The Jalothi chair called after her. Ambassador Chen, the vote has not yet been formally. The doors sealed behind them. For 80 years, humanity had been the galaxy's soft place to land. It started small. A human freighter captain, decades ago, had pulled a Kethvari larva ship from a debris field without asking payment. The story spread. Humans help. Humans fix. Humans do not hold grudges. Then it became policy. Earth's government, young and eager among ancient species, built its entire diplomatic identity around a single principle: absorb the blow, extend the hand, forgive the debt. It worked. Species that would never ally with warriors or traders flocked to the humans. The concordance grew. Trade routes expanded under human-maintained hyperspace relays. Plague response fleets, crewed and funded entirely by Earth, saved 3 species from extinction. And in return, humanity asked for almost nothing. Just goodwill. Just a seat at the table. Just the belief that patience would eventually teach the galaxy to be better. It did not. The Kethvari bombed the colony at Meridian Station in year 34. 14,000 dead. Earth's response, a formal note of sorrow, a request for dialogue, and the deployment of repair ships to rebuild Kethvari infrastructure damaged in the blast. The galaxy called it grace. The Kethvari called it submission. The drone hegemony cracked open human terraforming archives in year 51. Stole 40 years of atmospheric engineering. Earth filed a complaint, was ignored, and then invited the drone to co-author a new agricultural initiative. Forgiveness. Always forgiveness. The Voss collective violated the threshold accords 3 times. Each time, human mediators flew in, smoothed the language, redrafted the terms, and asked nothing in return except a handshake. Earth kept records. Not of anger. Not of grievance. Of arithmetic. Every act of forgiveness was logged. Every debt extended. Every mercy granted with no repayment. 80 years of columns and figures, stored in a single encrypted file on a server beneath Geneva. They called it the ledger. Not as a weapon. As a memory. A reminder of what it cost to be kind in a galaxy that mistook kindness for weakness. No one outside Earth's inner council knew it existed. Until today. The first sign that something had changed came 6 hours after the walkout. The Hyperspace Relay Network, a lattice of 1,400 stations built, funded, and maintained by human engineers for the benefit of all concordant species, went dark. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Simply switched off. Every station entered standby mode simultaneously. Navigation beacons dimmed. Trade corridors lost their guiding signals. By the next morning, 200 species found their shipping lanes unusable. Cargo fleets drifted. Perishable goods rotted in holds. The Drawn hegemony lost an estimated 9 billion credits in a single day. No one could reach Earth's relay command. No one could reach Earth at all. The second sign came on day 3. The Plague Response Fleet, 60 hospital ships crewed by human medical teams, recalled to home ports. 3 worlds in the outer spiral were mid-outbreak. They sent distress calls. The calls went unanswered. Not rejected. Unanswered. As if no one was listening. The third sign came on day 9. Human mediators, embedded in 14 active border disputes, packed their offices and went home. The disputes, held in check for years by patient human arbitration, reignited within the week. 2 of them became shooting wars by the end of the month. The galaxy did not panic immediately. There was disbelief first. Surely this was a negotiation tactic. Surely Earth would return when the pressure became too great. Surely the humans, who had spent 8 decades proving they would swallow any insult, would swallow this one too. The Kethvari expansion fleet, already en route to Threshold under the assumption of peaceful transfer, adjusted course. If the humans were not coming to the negotiating table, the Kethvari would simply take the world. They had done it before. Meridian Station had taught them that humans would rebuild what was broken and say thank you for the lesson. They were wrong. Fleet Commander Oren Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UNS Doctrine, a dreadnought that had spent 20 years in dry dock. Around him, the Threshold Defense Group assembled. 43 warships. Not the largest fleet in the galaxy. Not the most numerous. But every vessel had been built under a single design philosophy that the Concordants had never seen, because it had never been needed. For 80 years, human military doctrine had been constrained by the Mercy Protocols. Rules of engagement that demanded warning shots, surrender windows, minimum force escalation, and prisoner care. The protocols existed because humans believed war was a failure of forgiveness. A last resort. Something to be survived, not won. The protocols were gone now. What remained was the raw doctrine underneath. The one written in the first century of human spaceflight, when Earth had fought its own wars and learned terrible lessons about efficiency. The one that said, if you must fight, end it. Do not prolong. Do not offer the enemy time to regroup, rearm, or rethink. Strike the command structure. Strike the logistics. Strike the will. Then stop. Cleanly. Completely. Without cruelty, but without mercy either. The Kethvari fleet crossed into threshold space at 0400 station time. 600 warships. A migration armada. They broadcast on open channels, demanding surrender and administrative transfer. They expected the human garrison to negotiate. To stall. To ask for a ceasefire. Commander Vasquez did not open a channel. At 0407, the Threshold Defense Group launched. No warning. No hail. 43 ships fell on the Kethvari vanguard with coordinated railgun salvos that targeted engines, weapons arrays, and command bridges in a single synchronized volley. Not to destroy. To disable. To blind. To make 600 ships into 600 drifting, silent tombs. The Kethvari had never been hit without a warning first. Their tactical doctrine assumed a negotiation phase. Their shields were calibrated for the slow escalation of a mercy protocol engagement. They were not calibrated for a full-force opening salvo delivered in 4 seconds. By 0411, the vanguard was dead in space. By 0430, the second wave broke formation and attempted to retreat. Vasquez let them go. He did not pursue. He did not gloat. He opened a channel to the Kethvari flagship, the one vessel still functional enough to receive a signal. This is Commander Vasquez of the Threshold Defense Group. Your fleet is disabled. Your crews are alive. You may retrieve them within 72 hours under flag of truce. If your ships cross into threshold space again, there will be no disabling volley. There will be no second event. Do you understand? The Kethvari admiral stared at the screen. His mandibles were still. For the first time in his species' recorded history, he had no response prepared. Understood, he whispered. The channel closed. Word spread. The galaxy learned what happened at Threshold within the hour. The footage was brief, clinical, and terrifying. Not because of violence. Because of the absence of it. No speeches. No demands. No offer of parley. Just action, executed with the cold precision of a species that had been holding back for 80 years and had finally set the weight down. The drawn hegemony recalled its border fleets. The Voss Collective sealed its space and went silent. 14 species that had pending disputes with human worlds sent quiet, back-channel messages asking if negotiation was still possible. Earth did not respond. By the 3rd month, the concordance was fracturing. Without human mediation, the Jalothi chair could not hold votes. Without human relay maintenance, long-range travel became dangerous and expensive. Without human credit forgiveness, 6 minor economies collapsed. The galaxy, it turned out, had not built a civilization. It had built a dependency. And the thing it depended on had walked away. The Kethvari, humiliated, called for a coalition. They wanted a united front to force Earth back into its role. To demand the resumption of human duties. To remind humanity that it was needed and therefore obligated. 30 species joined the call. They assembled a diplomatic fleet, not a war fleet, they insisted, though it carried enough escort firepower to glass a continent. They set course for Earth. They would land. They would speak. They would remind the humans that forgiveness was their function and that the galaxy required it. They arrived in orbit above Earth on a Tuesday. They were met by a single shuttle. No escort. No guard. No weapons visible. Inside it sat Lena Chen, the same woman who had walked out of the chamber 3 months ago. She boarded the coalition flagship alone. The assembly chamber on the ship was packed. 30 species. Hundreds of delegates. They expected rage. They expected a speech about sovereignty, about pride, about wounded honor. They had prepared rebuttals. Concessions. Apologies shaped like requests. Lena Chen carried a data slate. She set it on the central table. She sat down. "You want to know why we left," she said. "Not a question." The Jalothi chair nodded. "We wish to understand. And we wish to discuss the terms under which humanity might resume its." No. The word was quiet. Final. You do not get to discuss terms. You get to listen. She activated the slate. A holographic display filled the room. Columns of data. Thousands of entries. Dates. Species names. Incidents. Costs. Lives lost. Resources spent. Dignity swallowed. "This is the ledger," Chen said. 80 years. Every act of forgiveness humanity extended to this galaxy. Every debt we absorbed. Every wound we healed and called it nothing. Every time we were struck and we smiled and we said it is fine, let us move forward. The room was silent. 14,000 dead at Meridian Station. Forgiven. 40 years of stolen research. Forgiven. 3 broken treaties. Forgiven. Children killed in diplomatic incidents. Forgiven. 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 We kept the count not because we were angry. Because we wanted to remember what it cost us. We wanted to believe the cost was building something. That our patience was teaching you to be better. She paused. Looked at the Kethvari delegate. You taught us instead that you would never stop taking. That our mercy was not a gift to you. It was a resource. Like ore. Like fuel. Something to be mined until depleted. The Kethvari delegate opened his mandibles. Closed them. We are not here to punish you, Chen continued. We are not here for war. We are here to tell you the price. She swiped the slate. The numbers changed. The relay network. The plague fleet. The mediation corps. The credit forgiveness programs. The terraforming aid. The agricultural initiatives. All of it. Every service humanity provided for free or at a loss for 80 years. You want it back. She let the number hang in the air. It was not a currency figure. It was a list. Sovereignty concessions. Treaty rewrites. Dismantling of military alliances. Admission of fault, public and permanent, for every entry in the ledger. This is the cost, Chen said. Not of our forgiveness. You cannot buy that. This is the cost of us talking to you again. Of sitting in the same room. Of pretending the last 80 years did not happen. You want the humans back? This is what it takes. The room erupted. Outrage. Denial. Accusations of blackmail. The drawn delegate called it extortion. The Voss representative called it madness. Chen let them shout. She waited. When the noise died, she stood. You may deliberate. You may vote. You may reject every term and we will go home and lock the door and never come back. That is your right. But you will not do it because you are angry. You will do it because you need us. And for the first time in 80 years, you will need us on terms we set. She picked up her slate. Walked toward the door. Stopped. One more thing. The Kethvari fleet at threshold. The crews are alive. They have been alive for 3 months. We fed them. We repaired their life support. We kept them warm. She turned back. We did that because we are not monsters. We did that because even now, even after everything, we do not kill when we do not have to. But do not mistake that for weakness. Do not mistake restraint for the old forgiveness. The old forgiveness is dead. What you get now is discipline. And discipline does not forget. She left. The shuttle carried her back to Earth. The Coalition fleet hung in orbit, silent, staring at the numbers on the table. It took them 4 months to decide. The drone hegemony refused. They sealed their space and built their own relays. It took them 11 years. 3 species died of plague in the interim because no one came. The drone survived, but they were smaller afterward. Quieter. They did not speak of the humans often. The Voss Collective signed. All terms. Public admission. Treaty restructuring. They became the first species to formally acknowledge the ledger. Earth's response was a single transmission, acknowledged. Welcome back to the table. Behavior will be noted. The Kethvari took the longest. 2 years of internal debate. A civil faction split. A new government rose. And then, on a cold morning in their home system, the Kethvari High Speaker transmitted a message to Earth. Not a demand. Not a negotiation. An apology. For Meridian Station. For Threshold. For 80 years of treating human grace as a right. Earth's reply was brief. Received. The door is open. Walk through it slowly. The galaxy did not heal overnight. It did not return to what it had been. The old structure, built on human self-sacrifice, was gone. What replaced it was smaller, rougher, and more honest. Species that had never spoken to each other directly now had to. Disputes that humans once absorbed now had to be faced. Some resolved. Some were not. Some became wars. Small ones. Contained ones. Wars fought by the people whose wars they were, without a mediator stepping in to swallow the cost. And humanity? Humanity went home. Rebuilt the relay network for its own use. Kept the plague fleet in port unless asked, and charged for the fuel. Mediated when invited, and only on the condition that both sides had exhausted every other option first. They were still kind. They were still generous. But the door had a lock now. And the lock had a key. And the key was earned. In Geneva, in a server room beneath the old diplomatic quarters. Deleted it. No one added to it. It sat as a record. A monument. A reminder of what